Ah, fuck. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to another Toonkind at... Well, I was gonna say 12 FPS, but there's only me today! So, hello everybody, and welcome to a Toonkind at 24 FPS. God. 24 FPS. It is only me. Just me. I am all you have today. Suffer heart emoji. Anyways. God, I don't know if any of you noticed, but I'm fucking nervous. I'm hoping that this is the start of a very big thing that I've had in the making for about a year, and also the fact that I have no one to bounce off of today. So it's just me and my energy. If you can handle that, hello. If you can't, I'm so sorry. This probably isn't the FPS for you. I hold you all very soft and you're valid no matter which side, no matter what you do. And see, this is why I'm called Babel. God. Alright, well, today I will be playing Jackie or Jacqueline Atracilla, or, Commander Mobile. Commander Mobile. And something like this. This is the FPS. The abyss she lies in. With that said, let's get to it. I do warn before we start, it is going to be potentially medium angst, could be higher. I don't know how Jackie is going to react to a lot of things that are probably going to happen, and you know what, that's fine. This is fine. And let's begin. So we start our day off, or, well, late evening off. It's a time. It is a time of something. A time of 24 hours. Somewhere in there. God. Every time I'm recording. Anyways. It is a time in somewhere within the 24 hours, after the end of Penguin Reunion. A couple days after Penguin Reunion, where we've all had rest and we've slept and bonded a little bit. 'Cause, dear God, it's been about a few years since Jackie has seen everybody except for their mother. To which case, they were both sick and dying for a couple days there. So, Anyways. We started our FPS off at the tail end of that, after everything is sort of settled. I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's probably somewhere in the middle of the night. That makes sense. Cover of the night. Jackie's not exactly sneaky, so they can't sneak away during the day. Gotta wait for everyone to be asleep. Jackie has been working on something. Working on saving up for this something, and then building said something. And, at the moment, they are in Abby's room in the squabble. Probably, even though Kraken is not here, I'm gonna roll a stealth. I'm gonna roll a stealth. Because Kraken isn't here to contest that, and oh dear god, I just looked at Jackie's stealth for the first time in a long time. My god. Okay. If Abby does not end up ever actually noticing this, I'm going to cry from tears of happiness and also just laughter, because god. Not gonna lie, that's a fucking 10, man. That's a 10. That's if Abby doesn't notice, I'm going to be severely disappointed. But also, anyways, they're getting up. If she does wake up, then they're just gonna say that they're gonna get some water. If she doesn't, well, then they're just gone for a bit. They do leave her a note, though, that says that they'll be gone for a couple of days and that they'll be back as soon as they can. They're just gonna go do something real quick. And, they're gonna go up to the deck. Kind of make their way up, and they're gonna go to shore. You know? Just casually make their way to shore. And, I'm gonna roll their hammer space. They got little legs, so it takes them a while to get from one place to another, which I find infinitely hilarious. That's a 6, so they get it out. Anybody who's around, probably no one, just kind of hears this noise of a small penguin child trying to cough something up, and out comes from their hammer space is a sort of briefcase looking thing. It doesn't stay like that for long. As they go to the other end of the docks, out of view of the squabble, and they set it down on the edge of the pier, and they open it, and they put on. Okay, I have to roll hammer space again actually for this, because that's a different thing. That's 2. That, you know what? That's good enough. I will take a 2. I will take a 2. It also means, though, I have to roll a strength for what they're doing, because they are putting on their arm. That's a 6. That's 6. Jackie puts their mechanical arm on, and, they try and move it, and then it just flops along the deck, or along the pier, and they just look at it for a minute. A good solid minute. And then they look at the sky like, you son of a bitch. They can't say anything, but they do just kind of gesture at the sky like, you have forsaken me. Why have you done this? You would do this to me, of course. On the day of my daughter's wedding, no. They are so offended by the fact that the arm would not stay on. And I'm gonna roll this again. They try it again. As soon as they move. On the fucking pier again. And they're just looking at it now. Contemplating whether or not they want to do this again, or if they just want to swallow their whole ass arm. Back into their hammer space. And they think, And they think, because they really want to be sure, is this worth it? Is it worth fighting over having 2 arms versus just the one? And they're gonna try it again. One more time. It falls off again. This child, they are so fucking done with shit not going right. They angrily bite at their mechanical arm that is on the ground that they were struggling with for like a good 10-20 minutes now. They're biting the hell out of it. It's not doing anything, but they're biting the hell out of it anyways. They're mad. Fussy little shit. And then, dear God, anybody who walks by just sees this small child swallowing a metal arm. You know, just casually. Just nom nom. Arm's gone now. Oh God, alright. Oh God, and instead of their arm, since they apparently can't do shit nor dick about that, they are now, they cough up a multi-tool. And they fiddle with that for a minute, holding it in their talons on their feet, while searching for the tool that they need with their flipper. And eventually they find the screwdriver and the wrench, having both of those, one of them at the ready, the other out normally. And they're gonna start working on it on the inside of that briefcase. They are reaching half of their tiny little body down into the fucking briefcase. It disappears into the briefcase. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Toony bullshit. Don't worry about it. Little tail up in the air as they're working on it. I say little tail, but like that tail is about as big as they are. They got a giant fucking tail, damn. I had to take a drink, sorry. Let me roll them in. Intelligence. Hee-hoo. What is your intelligence? I forget. I have not played you enough in the past few weeks. This is a crime. Jackie, my darling. Jackie, my darling. You and I are just cursed, Jackie. You and I are just cursed. God. So they... Jackie, love of my life, my darling little penguin child. There's a banging noise on the inside, and then a puff of black smoke. And Jackie comes out of the suitcase, lifts her head out, and they're just covered in soot. Usually that would be a bad thing, but thankfully Jackie is going to do the smart thing and jump into the ocean. They jump into the ocean, swim around for a little bit, do some torpedo twists, because they're super fast in the water. I mean, if they dash, they can go about 100 feet. Don't worry about it, it's fine. And until all of the soot is off, so that they don't get sick again. And for shits and giggles, damn, they do not do one of those penguin fails. Damn. They hop back onto the pier. And they shake off. Like a puppy. As you do. And then they go back to working on the fucking thing. Cause, God, they want this so bad. They want this to work so bad. And that's a 21. That is one away from being a nat 20. They do it! There is a dinging noise from inside the briefcase. It is finally done. Whatever it is that they have been working on, it's finally done. And they get out of the suitcase. And they close the suitcase. And roll hammer space again. Alright. Gotta roll your strength again. I'm gonna give you advantage, because fuck you. And I got... God, okay. They just got a nat 1 on putting their arm on again, and you know what? It kind of... No, I'm not gonna do that to them. It won't connect to the metal bit that is on their arm. It's just, it won't connect. They don't know why it won't connect, but it won't connect. It just won't. So they're standing there with this arm being a useless limb that they can't use, made of metal, and they're thinking about it. And they give a little puff of a sigh. This child is so tired, but they need this arm in order to operate the damn thing. Fucking finally! Alright, so, clearly there's something wrong with it since they couldn't, even connect it. So, they start messing with it to see what's wrong, and they fix that, and then they put it on, and hey, what do you know? It works fine, and for once it fucking stays. Hell yeah! Once that arm is on, they are fiddling with what looks like a wrist, a bracelet that you can kind of twist around on the wrist part of that metal arm until it reaches a certain symbol, and then they shove it up sort of into the hand part. And a part of it glows. And this is a relatively new symbol for them to have on that arm. And what is your dex, my darling? God, you got shit dex. Okay. You know what? I should have known. That's a 4. The suitcase starts transforming, and before they really get the chance to it's starting to form in a kind of bowl or bottom of a ship shape instead of a suitcase. Before they even get the chance to kick it into the water so that it doesn't get some water in it, it's doing that, and they panically kick it in. Like, oh god, you're not supposed to be out of the water when this happens. And, thankfully it doesn't get too much water in it. Not enough to stop it from doing what it's doing, or possibly sink it, but from there, it slowly starts to transform into a smaller ship. And it is very clearly made of metal, painted to look like wood, almost. The name, and it looks like a sailboat. A small sailboat. Tiny. Fit for a very small crew of maybe 5. Up to 4 or 5 people. Not a lot of people. Teeny. But she doesn't have her sails up. And that's not why Jackie's here. Even as said boat seems to honk its tiny little whistle in joy at seeing the person who made it swaying back and forth in a relatively happy motion. Kind of odd for a ship. Jackie doesn't smile. Jackie, I mean, they're happy that it's done. They made it. They made the Snugglebug. The Snugglebug is done. There is pride in that. But they know what they have to do. And they know that the Snugglebug, who they're aware, the minute that the Snugglebug went from a suitcase to a boat, they could feel it. The Snugglebug is alive. They know that the Snugglebug isn't gonna like this. Come to think of it, Jackie themselves doesn't like this, and perhaps that should be the first warning not to do this, but they're desperate. This takes place after Penguin Reunion, which that takes place after the FPS between Jackie and Hattie, where Jackie was looking for Detective Stagehand, and well, Detective Stagehand and Jackie had a conversation. Jackie needs allies. With any luck, they will have Detective Stagehand as an ally. They hope that they will. They hope that the deal is good. They hope that their mom and Detective Stagehand come to an agreement. And they don't know quite yet. And that, you know what? That's fine that they don't know. They hope that it works out. If it doesn't, then it happens. Regardless of whether or not it does or it doesn't, though, they know that they need more allies to fight against Captain Dylan Mobile. Because Captain Dylan Mobile is alive when they thought that he was dead. And there's only one other person that they can think of that they hope is still around in some way. And the only way that they know how to reach this person, because while they do know where that place is that they last saw her, they don't want to go there. They will if that's where it leads them, but they don't want to. The only way to know for sure if everything is okay and where she might be is to return to the site. The sight that changed their entire life. They reach their metal hand, or flipper, out to the snugglebug after giving it a hello pat with their normal flipper. And they run that metal flipper across the name Snugglebug. And they watch as the Snugglebug seems to change. The gentle swaying of childish happiness and contentment slowly stops. The air around it shifts. And as if there is a silent conversation that was had in that touch, there are mechanical noises. And the Snugglebug starts to change again. Metal painted like wood becomes metal painted like the night. The mast that held the sail folds into itself and sinks down into the floor. The helm itself changes to be covered and to be bright and have glass on it. This small little sailboat changes. Oh god, hello. This small sailboat, painted in pretty sunset colors, that was bright and happy, changes to become a tiny, more agile looking version of the drifting cube, which in and of itself is supposed to be a tiny, more agile version of the glacier rider. And the name itself of the Snugglebug changes from the Snugglebug to the Arctic Bullet. I gently pat you, Dee Dee. You're good. You're good. I'm glad that someone's here to listen. Fuck. God damn it. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. Dog was barking. Anyways. The Snugglebug has turned into the Arctic Bullet. And the change in the air goes from gentle contentment and lightheartedness mixed with a little bit of underlying seriousness to just completely serious. Inherently, from the moment that the Snugglebug was made, they knew that when Jackie put on that arm, when they had to go from the Snugglebug to the Arctic Bullet, it was time to get serious. They know what that means. Even if they're a boat and they can't express, and Jackie themselves is a penguin who can't speak, so they can't express. They don't need to. I don't remember what it's called, but that board that you put down for people to walk up onto the ship, it's a metal one. And it slides out from a point in the side of the ship down at Jackie's talons. And Jackie, who knew what to expect, isn't fazed. And slowly they walk up that platform onto their ship, and they're looking around, and they knew what would be here. They designed this ship, they built this ship, they know what's here. Even in this form. Regardless, that doesn't mean that there's not a sense of unease when they look around and they see something so similar to the Glacier Rider and the Drifting Cube, just so much smaller. They take a deep breath and they continue on. They don't have time to reminisce. They don't have time to dwell. Fuck me, I forgot where I left off. Thought, where was I? God. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted because dogs are assholes. Heart emoji. I legit forgot where the fuck I was. Yep, thank you. Thank you, Dee Dee. God. They don't have time to dwell, they don't have time to reminisce or unpack all of what happened aboard those two ships. They'll deal with that another time. For now, they take a deep breath and they walk towards one of the walls close to where they would enter the helm. And a locker shoots out from the ground, or, well, the deck, and kind of just plops itself very tunishly in front of them and opens for them. And in it is a very familiar kind of uniform, so to speak. It's not quite the uniform that they had when they were on the Glacier Rider, but it does have some similar elements. It's got the incredibly warm interior and the fuzz on the edges, and there is that super fluffy hat. But there are no boots. Jackie doesn't need them. The patches and the ranking, well, the ranking is the same. The ranking is still the same. But everything else is different. Similar, but different. This isn't a part of the Glacier Rider's fleet. This isn't a part of the mobile fleet. Regardless of the similarities between the Arctic Bullet and the Glacier Rider and the Drifting Cube, this is theirs. And while it might not show in the Arctic Bullet herself, it does show in Jackie. They admit that some of the things with the Glacier Rider and the Drifting Cube's design, it could not really be beat. It was good ship design. It was good. It was smart for what they were used for. And the tech on it is what they are most familiar with. Jackie... Alright. Starting again. Apologies, dogs. They be like that, unfortunately. Jackie puts on that uniform, and they go into that... They go into the home. The homeroom. And the light automatically turns on. Usually you're supposed to just turn it on via the fucking light switch near the door, but God, the Snugglebug is just... The Snugglebug slash Arctic Bullet is trying to help their owner, because dear God. And Jackie is pretty much struck in the face with a really bright-ass fucking white LED light. With a really bright LED light. And it takes them a moment to get used to that, because instead of everything being super dark, everything is suddenly super fucking bright, and they can't see. And they make some noise, and, to try and get a feel for what's around, even though they kind of already know. I mean, again, they built the ship, they know what's here, but also, it's different when you're actually inside it for the first time. And the Arctic Bullet makes noise as well to make sure that they can see everything that's there. Without much hesitation, going very slowly about how they're doing this, making sure that everything is in order, everything works fine, running through the tests and everything. Without much hesitation, they take off in the Arctic Bullet. You got both flippers on the wheel. Gently turning it, keeping it steady, as they go further and further out to sea. And the further out they go, the darker that it gets, then the more hazardous the water becomes, but this isn't abnormal for them. They've swam through worse. They've directed the Glacier Rider, a far bigger ship, through worse. God, perhaps it's a little bit more difficult because of just how much smaller the Arctic Bullet is compared to the Glacier Rider, but they're smart. They figure it out quickly. Not without a lot of struggle, but they do it. And there's a certain point which they get out far enough to where they can't see even the light from the shore anymore. Perhaps a couple hours after, they no longer can see the light from the shore anymore. They look back in that direction. They know that, you know, they're going to be gone for a couple days, even with how fast the Arctic bullet can be. And at this point, I'm sorry, we're just going to have to deal with the dogs in the background, because I can't... I'm not stopping at this point for it. Apologies, everybody. They know that they're going to be gone for a couple days, even though the Arctic bullet is designed to be faster than them when they swim in the water, just in general. The Arctic bullet is designed for speed. And they know that in doing this, they are more than likely absolutely worrying their family. They're going to be worrying their mother. They're going to be worrying the janitors. You know? They know this. They're going to be worrying Phasmus. Phasmus is probably going to give them a good talking to when they get back. And that thought does cross their mind, and they smile just a smidgen at that. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. That's fine. Phasmus is their sibling. That... but that smile stops. Because even though that they're going to be worrying everybody that they love, they gotta do this. It's for them. Perhaps it would have been smart to take somebody with them, but at the same time, a large part of them suspects that if they had taken anyone with them, the odds of them letting them do what they're gonna do upon arrival is slim. And they don't want to take the chance of not being able to. They don't want to take the chance of not being able to find that item that will lead them to this admittedly very important ally. And a friend of theirs that they haven't seen in a long time. Friend of theirs that they haven't seen since a while before the Glacier Rider's initial crash. They have to. Another deep breath as they start fiddling with buttons. Next to the helm, and then a preparation. They steel themselves for what's to come. As the ship seems to stop, it doesn't actually stop. It's still going forward, but not nearly as fast as it was, and there's more mechanical noises, and then there's beeping. It's the beeping of a submarine delving underwater, and the Glacier Rider, or not the Glacier Rider, god damn it, the Arctic bullet starts to sink. starts to sink, much like a submarine, slowly descending beneath the surface of the water. And Jackie unintentionally holds their breath when they see the water start to get up to the glass that separates them from the outside, until the Arctic bullet is completely submerged underwater, because, oh dear god, memories. And once they're a good 100 feet below the surface of the water, where everything is dark and still, they take a moment to take it all in. The only light into the ocean being the moon shining down through it, and the light from the cabin shining out. They take a moment to take that in, and it has been so long since they have felt this. Being above water, it's fun, it's nice. Below the sea, though, below surface level in the ocean, they are most familiar with that. It's terrifying. It is fucking terrifying, but it is also the most comforting to them. They take that in. Feeling the waves, or, well, feeling how the water moves, as if the Arctic bullet is an extension of themselves. Getting a feel for what's in the area. And then they go. They continue forward. The Arctic bullet is doing something as Jackie is just going forward, and then Jackie puts their metal flipper on a different button that they pull out from a drawer beside the helm. And, the Arctic bullet kind of at their feet clamps down on them. Jackie's familiar with what they're doing. The Arctic bullet is designed to do this. The Arctic bullet is essentially keeping them steady in the only way that it can. And there's a cushioned... There's a big cushion backing that appears behind them. And a strap goes over their middle, keeping them in place. And then Jackie pushes the button. It starts off gentle at first, how fast they end up going. They go from, D&D mechanically speaking, from going the standard 20 to 30 feet to jumping to just straight up 50, and it climbs 60, 70, 80, 100. And Jackie's familiar with that speed. They're fine. They grasp onto the helm extremely tightly once it reaches that point, and it's been going at that point for a few seconds because they know what is going to come. And out of nowhere, there's a blast from behind. And the whirring of the engines. And they're going about 200 feet. Out of nowhere. Once they get used to that speed, they are able to steer again. But dear God, it is a shock to go from 100 feet to 200 feet. And continue to go that fast for a bit. They know the destination that they're going to, though. They both do. Jackie goes around the side of Giznep, past Toontown's port, past the other ports, past Happiest Place. Well, not Happiest Place. Yeah. Happiest Place is in Giznep, I think. Pretty sure. Past there. Past that port. Past what they suspect is Little Corner's port. They don't know what that is. That's new. Weird. I don't know. I don't fucking know. And then they reach Saltpier Port. But they don't stop once they notice that that is where they are now. Instead, they turn to go further out into sea. And they go further and further, and it takes a few days to even get to that point. They go further and further, where it's colder, and it's darker, and the ocean is much more vast, and it's just darkness below. Eventually it gets to the point where they have to weave through glaciers or ice. And it's when they have to start doing that even more, to when it's a non-stop weave where they can't stop to just go straight or anything. Otherwise they'll hit something. They'll hit ice. It's at that point where they start looking. Maybe they go in circles a couple times. It's alright. They're okay with that. They turn something on. A screen next to some of the others, and they're glancing at that every chance that they get as it beeps and it beeps and it beeps. And they're looking, they're hoping, they're searching, until finally there is a blip. And they look. And they see just how far down what they are looking for is, with the number that is on the screen. They take a deep breath. Because, yep. They prepared for how deep that was. They figured. They figured it was deep down on that terrifying abyss. Eventually they slow it down. And they maneuver the Arctic bullet to point downwards. Not straight downwards, just as downwards as it can go without disorienting the shit out of them. If it weren't for the fact that they're in a ship, doing that wouldn't be a problem. Just going straight down would not be a problem. Unfortunately, it is a problem when they're in the Arctic bullet. And they start descending. They go deeper and deeper, where the water is no longer a dark midnight blue, but just pitch black. And it's several hundred feet into that pitch blackness that they finally decide to turn on a bunch of red lights. Actually, hold on, let me see. Is it red lights that are deep sea animal communication for predator? I don't fucking know. I don't have time to look it up. And they also turn on, you know, their usual overhead lights. And then they keep descending. Down, 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 thousands of feet below the surface. Long past where the ice can no longer reach them. They try not to think about it when there's noises in the distance echoing in the Arctic bullet. They can feel the Arctic bullet tense at a particular noise, a particular creaking that shouldn't be happening in the ocean, particular set of movement. They try not to think about that. There's an innate sense of fear shared between the two of them. And let me roll a whiz save for Jackie. Because it is completely dark here. To where no matter what they do, the light that they have only works as dim light. That's a 13. So for those of you that are new here and new to anything Jackie lore related, Jackie is... They're a 7-year-old child. And yes, you heard me right. They're a 7-year-old child. And yes, they are in fact doing this. Essentially diving down into a military submarine. Into the dangerous depths of the ocean. On their own! You were right in thinking that, what the fuck? And a fun fact about this small 7-year-old child who has decided to go into their military submarine on their own in the middle of the night. Jackie's afraid of the dark. But it's not so much the darkness itself that they're afraid of. It's what they know lurks in it. And these noises that they've heard in the distance before, but they've never heard it quite like this. What sounds like a deep bellowing sea, but off and wrong. Essentially, it sounds kind of like, if anybody knows Subnautica, it sounds like the Leviathan. The Ghost Leviathan in particular. It sounds like that when you can't see it and it's sneaking up on you, because fuck you in particular. They're hearing that noise in the distance, and while it is in the distance and they recognize that, it's still louder than they've ever heard it before. And they don't recognize what it is, but they know that it is something. Their grip on the helm gets tighter. And they're shaking, but they're continuing to go because they can't not. In their head, they keep repeating, I'm doing this for my mom. I'm doing this for my mom. It's for my mom. It's for my mom. It's for my family. It's for them. I have to do this. I have to. I need help. I need help. I can't get that if I'm alone. And out of nowhere, they have to stop and pull up a bit, because from below, something nudges them. And when they finally, with the alarms going off of impact from the Arctic bullet, when they finally get their bearings, thanks to the Arctic bullet keeping them steady this entire time, they look out the window again and they see this large blue creature. Giant snake-like creature that is far bigger than the Glacier Rider. And the Glacier Rider was a behemoth of... Oh dear gods, the Glacier Rider was a behemoth of a ship. They had never seen anything quite as big as the Glacier Rider, but this thing... This thing is bigger. It's bigger, and it sees them. And it knows that they're there, and it is angry. It's turned around at this moment, but it is screaming. And it takes them a moment to respond to this, but they are absolutely... They fumble with the button, trying to get it out of the... of the drawer, and then they smack it, and oh god, how big is this thing? They shoot off the Arctic bullet, not giving them time to get adjusted, just going up to that 200 almost immediately, and helping them maneuver it. They're going along the entire body of this creature, past this glowing giant stone looking thing near its chest, and getting to its head, and oh god, if this thing wanted to, it could just swallow this ship whole. And that realization hits hard. They're just running. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They are just running. And it chases after them. It is almost damn near relentless. It chases them for perhaps an entire day, until something makes it stop and it starts to swim away. Because even though there was a good 90 feet of distance between them, it was still trying. But then it just went away. And Jackie doesn't stop, but they are moving towards it and going back and forth to try and figure out what the fuck. Is it actually just going away, or is it trying to juke me? But no, they realize that it's just leaving. And at that realization, Jackie takes a moment to breathe. And then they go back down again. Not stopping with the speed in case that thing comes back. Until they fucking find what they were looking for. And my god, because of how dark it is and how admittedly small the Glacier Rider is in this abyss of darkness, it takes them a while to even find the floor. And it takes them few hours more until they find the shipwreck, the Glacier Rider. And in turn, ironically enough, the drifting cube, not that far away from it. But the drifting cube isn't what they're looking for. They point the nose of the Arctic bullet down at the center of the split in the middle of the Glacier Rider. And they stop her. They shine the light, as many lights as they can, down into that area, making it as bright as possible. God, this area just eats up light, doesn't it? They stop her. And the Arctic bullet, it takes some convincing, but eventually the Arctic bullet lets Jackie go. And Jackie removes the uniform that they had on and pulls out a diving suit. They don't necessarily need a rebreather. They don't need an oxygen tank or anything like that. They're a penguin, for one. And while they don't necessarily quite know or understand what this means, they are a water spirit as well. They don't need to breathe underwater. Well, I mean, they do, but, like, they don't need an oxygen tank to do that. That is just a part of Jackie. I've never really thought about it, about why they can just breathe in water as if they do on land, with just a little bit more difficulty. And they're not going to start questioning it now. Jackie puts on that diving suit, and they go over past the helm in the cabin towards the glass, or more specifically underneath it. Underneath it, there is a God the fuck. There is there's a panel that opens for them. And on the inside of that panel, it just looks like a tube that's big enough for them. Upon closer inspection, though, that tube leads directly to the outside. It is essentially a launching pad for divers. Specifically, a penguin cannon. This ship has a penguin cannon. And Jackie hops in. And the Arctic bullet shoots them out. And with that speed, they don't really have to use a lot of energy to get up to the speed that they usually go in. They swim exceedingly fast. And they turn on a lot of their headlight that they have on their head. Yes, this thing has a baby cannon. This thing does indeed essentially have a baby cannon. And Jackie starts looking. They get down close to the sand and they start sifting through it. Nothing. They ignore the really strange creatures that come by because they don't know what those are, and they're not going... They aren't gonna fuck with that. They search through the broken and decrepit halls that once held perhaps not life. Perhaps life is a strong word to use when it comes to the people on the Glacier Rider. Living on the Glacier Rider, that wasn't living. The survivors. They used to hold survivors. Victims, if you will. Jackie looks through these halls, the ones that they can reach. The only thing that they really notice is how quickly this ship that they used to call a place to live has become overgrown with... It has basically become an old-looking sunken ship. How quickly that happened. The metal is rotting. There are things growing on it. Plenty of sea creatures from the depths have decided that this is their home now, and, you know, Jackie's not gonna fuck with that. It's strange and eerie for them to see. They're not bothered by this either, though. They remember these halls. They remember what happened. They know what happened here. They search the halls, they search the galley. They search the medic ward. Something that is incredibly difficult for them to go near. Both halves, and God, they can't bring themselves to stay there long, especially not near that room. God, they feel sick just being there. They swim away from that particular area as fast as they can, and then they spot what was apparently behind that room. And what looks like a secret lab. From what they see. Excuse me. And they're looking at a relative distance to what the fuck? They're looking and they're seeing the boards that are there. Seeing the screens that are there, and I have to make them a whiz save. It doesn't surprise them what they find there. I will fight you. Dee, I will fight you. My sneezing is not adorable. How dare. It's terrifying what they find there, but it's not surprising. The things that they've seen wandering the halls at night when they were young, and just in general on the Glacier Rider, they know. They knew. They didn't want to think about it, but they knew. It's terrifying, but it's not surprising. They're filing that away. Gods. I think what perhaps scares them the most is the fact that this was going on up until the very day that the Glacier Rider sank, and during the Glacier Rider sinking. Realistically, there should be bodies in this lab, in both halves of the lab. And for better or worse, their feathers, what feathers are visible, start to turn a bright, dull white in realization that there are none. They've seen a few bodies already in this wreckage, due to the unfortunate reality that there were plenty of real kind aboard this ship when she crashed, and the bodies weren't as mangled before the second rising and sinking of the Glacier Rider, and now that they're almost unrecognizable past a few limbs. You know, that they expected that. That's normal, that's expected in this situation. There are things out there now, and they realize this, that are horrifying monstrosities. Jackie coughs up a camera, and they start taking photos of it. Photos of the things that they find with the flash on. No, it needs to be known. Word needs to go out that these things were here and they are not here anymore. There are no bodies. They are out there somewhere. They have that sinking feeling in the pit of their stomach, and it bothers them. This is a threat. This is not what they were looking for, but they are glad that they found it, because now they know. Now they know. Now they know, and they can warn people of things that are out there. They knew that they existed aboard the ship, but they didn't know that they could get out and survive the crash. After they take plenty of photos until the reel is almost entirely full of them, even taking photos of, unfortunately, the bodies that they did find of some of the crewmates. as proof that there should have been something there, and in hopes that somebody recognizes the pieces. Maybe the families can have some closure. And they remember at that thought that there is something that they had been looking for a long time. And they find a few of them in the sand, some entangled in some of the wildlife. They had to fight for that, to get those back. Gods. They shove... Damn, that's a lot. They shove 19 dog tags in their hammer space. That's 19 people whose families will now know. 19 people's families will have closure. Or perhaps those people didn't have families, but they will still have closure. They can have a proper burial now, because their names were found. Their dog tags were found. And then they move on. Jackie can't help but keep looking out every time they go from room to room. There's a lot of noises, surprisingly, in these depths. It's too quiet, and yet it's too noisy all at once. And they're swimming in near the cabin with what they know to be the old helm, and where they knew Captain Dylan Mogul's room to be when they finally spot it. The thing that they were looking for, they feel its warmth. Very soft, gentle, dying warmth. And they swim towards it immediately. Swatting away any and all old files and things that possibly just disintegrate upon just the motion of them doing it. And pick up this bracelet. This bracelet made of small beads, with one small, or one slightly bigger bead in the center. They hold that close to them. And they just kind of curl up there where they're floating. And the memories start coming back of them when not even a few or a couple years back, when they first exchanged these bracelets with another girl. Memories of them and this small teenage girl, and I wish I could describe people, but I can't. They remember her name. They remember Sid. Memories flood of the two of them talking about mechanics, about magic, when either one could steal a moment away from Captain Dylan Mobile. They remember lonely nights when they were hiding in their room, in their little box bed, and they would get this warmth from the middle bead. They remember one night in particular where Captain Mobile dragged them out from their hiding place in the wall to the middle of the floor in the artillery room, in front of Sid, this young teenager. Todd barking in the background, chained up to the side of the ship. They remember teeth surrounding them, biting them, everything being ripped and torn, and they were just a baby. They remember barely being conscious and feeling wet from ink and seeing through blurry vision and white, dull white ink. Poor Sid. Crying in horror. And then they remember Captain Dylan Mobile leaving them there and dragging Sid away. They remember shortly after being healed feeling the warmth from that bead. And many times that bead was the only source of comfort that they had. And they remember times when the bead would glow a bright red, and they would respond by sending emotion of love in turn in response to that. They knew what that meant. They both knew what the colors of the bead meant. They held this bracelet close to them, and they let those memories flood. They knew that they survived, but they didn't know if Sid survived. Sid wasn't on the ship when the Glacier Rider sank, but they know Dylan Mobile. They hoped that the love that they were sending was getting through, and if not, then they would search. They will search anyways. And this, they knew, even if the other one didn't exist anymore, it would lead them to her. They need her. They need to know that she's at least okay. And they need her help. And with that thought in their mind, now that they have this bracelet, they leave everything else. They stopped searching, and they bolt out from that half of Dylan Mobile's cabin room, his quarters, and they just book it. They book it at all 100 feet towards the Arctic Bullet, and they go back into that tube. And they shoot themselves through that little panel, the drifting cube, letting them in. They shake off. They don't even bother putting on the other uniform. They just go. They got what they came for. They don't need to be here anymore. They start up the Arctic Bullet. They pull it back, and they pull it forward to point in the direction that they know home is, and then they book it. They book it. And they realize that this is... They realize exceedingly quickly that thing, that giant creature that bumped them and knocked them around a bit and chased them, it went directly to Saltpier Port. Due to some sudden and unfortunate circumstances, this FPS is ending. Jackie has made it back with everything that they need. Yes, Nubbins, I know. You're okay. You're okay. Due to some unfortunate circumstances, Jackie has stopped. The FPS has stopped. But Jackie has done it. They made it. Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Much love from Babble and Fam. Goodbye.